Hello everyone, Richard here at Calvin Wazoo, and I've got a video that's kind of maybe it's a bitch video. And I don't normally go this route, but I happened to see in my social media feed a link to an article by this website called American Songwriter, The Craft and Music. And the article's title was the 10 Essential Classic Rock Albums Every Music Lover Should Hear. Now, by and large, these types of lists, they're just clickbait, right? They get you to read them and, of course, start controversy over, well, why didn't you include this and that, which is just kind of a pointless thing. But I really started to, after I went through their list, I really started to think about the validity of this list when I saw the number 10 item. So let me just kind of go through this list. Remember that this list is called the Essential Classic Rock Albums. All right. And I know that when it comes to radio formats, classic rock is a bit amorphous. In my mind, classic rock is 1960s and 1970s. Once you get into the 1980s, that's where you start coming in with synth pop, new wave, punk rock. It's not classic anymore, it's like that with orchestral music too. The classical period is not all orchestral music. The classical period is a specific period in time. There's the Romantic period, there's the Baroque period, there's the modern period. So yeah, it's like saying, the greatest classical music, and then you throw in composition by Purcell. Okay, well, that's not classical. That, I believe, is Baroque, or well, whatever. This kind of happens all the time. But anyway, I just thought, okay, well, let's go through their list. And their number one, classic rock, is a legit choice. It's Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? And it's 1967, so it's right there in the period. Definitely a classic rock record. And then their number two is Who's Next? All right, yeah, classic rock. Oh, this is just, to me, this is like a perfect album. When we're talking 1971, it's rock for sure, all the way. Then their number three is Sticky Fingers, right? 1971 also, the Rolling Stones. We're talking about a really solid rock album that also, brings in and melds other musical styles, but it's rock. It's rock and roll for sure. And it's classic. Then for number four is Led Zeppelin 4, which, yeah, I might have picked a different Led Zeppelin album if I were to have Led Zeppelin in this list. But certainly, yeah, this is a classic rock. It's certainly not my favorite when this first came out. I was like maybe 13, 14 years old. And of course, I do not now like as much Stairway to Heaven as I did then. So many better songs on this record than Stairway to Heaven, which is, the one they play on classic rock radio all the time. And then their number five choice, Dark Side of the Moon, 1973, Pink Floyd. Certainly a classic album from that era, and certainly a very influential album, a very popular album, sold millions and millions and millions of copies. So yeah, all right, that's fine, for their list. Then we come to the 1975 release of Queen's A Night at the Opera. Yeah, it's probably an okay one, but again, this is being selected. Why? Because they always play Bohemian Rhapsody. There are a lot of other great songs on here, such as Lazing on a Sunday Afternoon, and I'm in love with my car. I mean, oh my God. But yeah, all right, but yeah, the reason it's in the list is because of that song that they play on classic rock radio. And then, well, we start getting into little shady areas now. They're number 7, and I don't have a copy of this particular release. I have other releases by this band. But for number 7, the 1976 release of the debut of the Ramones. So, classic rock. I don't know. This is when we start hearing about punk. And, is that classic rock? But yeah, okay, it's still in the era, 1976, so fine. And then the 1980, well, now we're kind of heading out of the classic rock era, but it still kind of fits, and that's AC/DC's Back in Black. I don't have that one either. I have earlier Bon Scott AC/DC. But it's rock. It's definitely rock, and fits into the notion of at least hard rock, classic rock. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Then we've got Nevermind, 1991, is their number 9. I have the huge 4 record set on vinyl, and I didn't want to bring it out. But yeah, this is, definitely an influential and an enormously important record, but it's not classic rock. Okay, we're in 1991. We're talking about grunge. But I guess they play it on the format of classic rock radio. But yeah, it's, all right. But then they get to number 10. And again, I don't have a copy of this. We're way up into 1995. We're way beyond the classic rock era. It would be, this is like, we would say that John Cage is representative of the classical music period, which was nearly 100 years before John Cage. John Cage is definitely, mid-century, mid-century new neoclassical or whatever. Anyway, their number 10 is Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette. Besides the fact that this is 1995, this is not classic rock. No way can you say this is classic rock. Yet that ridiculous song, Ironic, got played over and over and over again. It's like, if you wanted to include, and you should include, women performers when it comes to classic rock. But, going to the classic rock era, I would throw in Susie Quatro. I would throw in Patti Smith. Okay? I mean, that's rock. Alanis Morissette, no, we're into the alternative rock era. It's not classic. And that's the entry in their list. It really really riled me, because there's so many other classic rock albums. Everybody can say this. They could have included, David Bowie's Aladdin Sane. as one. They could have included Killer by Alice Cooper, as a essential classic rock album. Even Black Sabbath's debut would be much more appropriate for this list. I mean, my God, this was an incredible and influential album. And Cream's Wheels of Fire from the 60s. I get why they didn't include the Beatles because, they're their own category, all right? But, Alanis Morissette over Santana Abraxas, which was released in the classic rock era, okay? It's really bad enough that we're heading into the 90s and including albums like this as classic rock, but Jagged Little Pill, that is a very difficult pill to swallow. So, hey, leave a comment in the down under, what are your 10 essential albums from the classic rock era? What do you think of this particular list? It's from the website American Songwriter, The Craft and Music. It's americansongwriter.com. And it's their 10 essential classic rock albums. Geez, you could have included CCR, in that. Whatever, leave a comment in the down under. Share your thoughts with me. I do enjoy getting them. Be sure to check me out on Instagram as NewsDude76, as NEWZDUDE76. Also on Facebook as Kelvin Wazoo. You can look me up there. And always remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.